Greetings, Pokefans! Michael here, and a while ago, I made a video going over every fully evolved Johto Pokemon that, at the time, had never gotten any kind of later generation love from Game Freak, coming in the form of a new evolution, or a new form, or a type change, and whether I thought those Pokemon should get something. Today's video will be the same, but for the Johto Pokemon. While not the oldest group of Pokemon, it is still over 2 decades old, and it's a group somewhat infamous for having too many underpowered Pokemon. So let's see which of these Johto Pokemon are the same 7 generations later. The first is Meganium. The Johto starters are sandwiched between 2 generations of starters that did get new forms, but it's never worked out for Meganium to get one. It's not that surprising that it hasn't gotten a new form since it hasn't been a pickable starter since Gen 4, but I do think it's a great candidate for one. It has a simple design which makes it easier to transform into something unique. I'd like to see Meganium get a variant in another Pokemon Legends game down the line, like Typhlosion did in Legends Arceus, which means, yes, Typhlosion got its Hisuian form, while Meganium has not. This marks the first time in Pokemon history that only one starter member of a trio got a new form, while the other 2 did not. Okay, technically Blaziken was the only Hoenn starter to get a Mega in X and Y, and Charizard was the only Kanto starter to get a Gigantamax form in the base game of Sword and Shield, but the other 2 members of those trios got their new forms within the same generation. Generation 8 is done, and Typhlosion remains the only Johto starter to have an alternate form, which of course means that Feraligatr is the next overlooked Johto Pokemon. No Mega nor variant, since like Meganium, you haven't been able to pick it as a starter since Heart Gold and Soul Silver. It certainly deserves one though. It's not as popular as Typhlosion, hence the reason why Typhlosion was selected for Legends Arceus. Seems like they picked the most popular starter from each of those 3 starters generations, but it's still a really cool and awesome Pokemon, and I want to see it get a variant in another Legends game at some point. Next is Furret, which is weird since it feels like it got special treatment due to the Furret walking stream taking over the internet for years, but nope, Furret has been Furret since it was added. This is a bit odd to me because it means the devs skipped over it when giving new forms to early route normal types. They gave Rattata and Raticate Alolan forms, but then jumped to Zigzagoon and Linoon for Galarian forms. It's a bit odd, but I guess I get it. Like, a Kiss-inspired Furret just doesn't feel like it would work. I'd be super down for Furret to get something though, ideally an evolution because its stats are poor. It's a cute, fun Pokemon that could use some relevance aside from the walking stream that ended because Sinnoh remakes came out. Bad ones, unfortunately. All that walking? For this? Next is Noctowl, which definitely deserves something. They don't tend to give regional birds anything since they usually just make new regional birds, Pidgeot being the only one to get anything, but I think Noctowl deserves something. Rowlet and its evolutions have really taken over as the main owl Pokemon, which is fair, they're awesome, but we could use a powerful, more traditional owl Pokemon as well. Noctowl's stats are underwhelming, so giving it an evolution that buffs its strength and gives it the psychic typing it's deserved for a long time would be fantastic. Or heck, go an unexpected direction and make it a ghost flying type. Like they did that with Annihilate and it made it more awesome. They could do that with Noctowl. Picture the big eyes like with spookiness. Next is Ladian, which design-wise is a cute and cool Pokemon. Few Pokemon successfully achieve both, but I think Ladian does. It's never received even the slightest later generation help though, which is a shame because as of now, it is a horrifically useless Pokemon. Terrible stats, terrible typing, and its hidden ability Iron Fist boosts physical punching moves, yet its base attack is only 35. Please give Ladian an evolution that maintains its cool, cute balance. Ladybugs are one of the few lovable bugs, so it's a shame that as of right now, the only 2 Ladybug Pokemon are a cute but useless one and a weird spaceship. Next is Ariados, another one of Johto's early game bugs. I don't find it as visually appealing as Ladian, but I still think something for it could work. Ideally an evolution because again, awful stats. To be honest though, I don't really feel optimistic about Ladian or Ariados getting any new forms or evolutions. Yes, Butterfree and Beedrill got upgrades, but none of the other weak early game bugs have. Instead, they just made most of the new bugs stronger. I think the older weak ones should get some love, but they don't have the same recognition level as Butterfree and Beedrill, so I'd like them to, but I'm pessimistic. Next in the dex is Crobat, which has not been forgotten because it itself is an upgrade, being a new evolution of Golbat. Johto has several of these, so they won't be part of the lacking an upgrade group because they themselves are the upgrade. But if I may insert my personal opinion here, Crobat should get something. It's super cool. It hasn't gotten anything in 7 generations. Scizor and Steelix, cool new evolutions, haven't gotten anything. Give some love to my favorite bat. Just like you should give some love to me and subscribe to this channel. I'm very close to 2 million subs. I lost my voice there a little bit. The next forgotten Pokemon is Lantern. This is a crime. It is adorable, has a really unique and fun typing. It's got a cool design inspiration, and for Arceus' sake, it's blue and yellow. Those are my channel colors. Look at this, on this new merch that will be going on sale at MandJTVmerch.com very soon. Just kidding, it's available now. We've got the Hail Yeah embroidered hoodie, the shirt I've been wearing this entire video except right now, and the Wildfire Mighty plush. These are available for a very limited time at MandJTVmerch.com, so get them while you have the chance. It's also been in a lot of regional dexes, meaning Game Freak likes to include it, just not make it good. I've used Lantern a few times, but it can be difficult to do so because every stat but its HP is underwhelming at best. It absolutely deserves an evolution so that a cool, cute anglerfish can be the best water electric type instead of a washing machine. The next stretch of Pokemon are baby Pokemon for Gen 1 Pokemon, Pichu, Cleffa, and Igglybuff. Now, while these are technically new members of evolutionary lines, I hesitate to call them upgrades because a baby version is just like, that's just worse to get than a new evolution. Oh, hey, this Pokemon you wanted to get stronger? How about instead, we just give you a tinier version that, yeah, it's cute, but now you have to go an incense breed just for the dex entry when you're not even gonna use the baby form, you're just gonna evolve it immediately. However, even if we don't count baby forms as love from the devs, all 3 of these evolutionary lines have gotten other attention. Pikachu has the Gigantamax form, Raichu has the Alolan form, and both Wigglytuff and Clefable became Fairy type, a significant upgrade in their usability. These lines are far from forgotten. Next is Togetic, which got the major upgrade of Togekiss, and then yet another upgrade by getting the Fairy type. This line has gotten quite a bit of love, but frankly, it needed it. Togetic is absurdly weak for a fully evolved Pokemon, and I will never understand why they thought it was fine to have the fancy demonstration of the new breeding feature Pokemon be so useless. The next overlooked Pokemon is Xatu. It's never been a favorite of mine, but its design is unique and a cool nod to Native American totems. Its typing isn't the coolest, being overshadowed by a lot of other psychic flying types, but I think it's a solid candidate for a new form or evolution. An evolution would help it out a lot. Its base stat total is 470, higher than other Pokemon we've discussed, but Bisharp got Kingambit while having its total be 490. Xatu should get a new evolution whose name ideally starts with X, so we have more options for the X entry whenever we do the Pokemon Alphabet challenges over on MandJTV Plays. Next is Ampharos, which got a Mega, then Blossom, which was a new evolution for the Oddish line. A worse one though? I don't know why they made it. Then is Azumarill, which got Azurill, but even if we're not counting babies, it still got the fairy typing, skyrocketing its usefulness. Then we get to Sudowoodo. This is the first one that did get a baby form, Bonsly, but nothing else. And I think I have decided to decree that baby forms do not count as special treatment for the sake of this video. Like, they're cute, I guess, but they're not helpful. As for Sudowoodo's situation, not getting anything besides Bonsly, I'm both shocked and not shocked. Sudowoodo has been an iconic Pokemon since its introduction, serving as a very memorable roadblock with an amusing design focus. It's almost like Johto's Snorlax equivalent. In that sense, I understand not giving it an evolution because you'd be adding something on top of an existing role. Like, it'd be a bit weird if you caught this big, powerful Snorlax and then it evolved further. It just seems like it might be too much. But unlike Snorlax, Sudowoodo sucks. its base stat total is an awful 410. So while clearing the Snorlax roadblock rewards you with a very powerful Pokemon, doing so in Johto gives you a weak rock log. It's insane to me that they gave Sudowoodo a baby form when it was already so weak and needed a power boost. Snorlax got a baby, but that makes sense because it's way stronger. And then it went on to get a Gigantamax form. So while I understand keeping Sudowoodo's role pure, I think that purity should be cast aside in favor of actually rewarding you with something good for clearing out the roadblock. Next, we hop over Politoed, pun intended, because it itself is a new evolution for the Poliwag line. So next comes Jumpluff. Jumpluff is a cute Pokemon I've never been overly fond of, but it is so weak for a fully evolved 3-stage Pokemon, only having a base stat total of 460. It frankly needs an evolution as opposed to a new form, but it can't get one unless it's a Mega Evolution, and those aren't coming back anytime soon. The only way I see making some version of it viable is a Paradox Pokemon version, but that's wildly unlikely since it didn't already happen. Jumpluff is decently cute, but as of now, I think there's basically no chance it ever gets buffed. But Tropius is awesome. It could evolve, and it should evolve. We could finally have a grass flying type that's good enough to overcome its garbage typing. And it would be a dinosaur! Next is Aipom, which got Ambipom, bringing us to Sunflora. This odd-looking sunflower Pokemon only has a base stat total of 425. As I've mentioned, Johto is filled to the brim with preposterously weak fully evolved Pokemon. Like, they've fixed a lot of them in the 7 generations since, but there are still some that they've neglected to buff. As for Sunflora getting a new evolution, I think it would make sense. It's weak and it's only the 2nd stage. However, I think there are other cooler Pokemon that are more deserving. Sunflora is just a sunflower with a derpy face and feet. Plus, it had a very recent large focus in Artisan in Scarlet and Violet, and it didn't get anything then. So I'm fine with it getting an evolution, but if it didn't, I think it's fine to stay as an early game pass over later Pokemon. Next is a solid stretch of Pokemon that have gotten love. Yanma got Yanmega, Wooper and Quagsire got Wooper's Paldean form and Clodsire, Espeon and Umbreon are new evolutions themselves and were followed by more. Murkrow got Honchkrow, Slowking both is a new evolution and got a regional form later, and Mischievous got both Mismagius and Fluttermane. Paradox Pokemon are technically new species, not evolutions, but I still count them as upgrades for the Pokemon they're based on. Because if you really like a certain Pokemon, like Delibird, you can use the Paradox form, Iron Bundle, and have basically the same Pokemon, but way stronger, in the case of some of them. Some of the Paradox Pokemon are weaker than the originals, but only by a little bit. That brings us to Unknown, which is actually a Pokemon that's gotten new forms somehow. When it was introduced, it had a form for every letter, but then in Gen 3, the exclamation point and question mark forms were added. I think that's more than sufficient enough to count. It's a new form in a generation after it was introduced. But even if you were to argue that it doesn't count, I would not think Unknown should get anything. It's a gimmick Pokemon, like Ditto. Like, what would they do? Its role as a collectible in Legends Arceus, was the best thing they've done with Unknown ever, and I think it's best that's how it stays. Next is Wobbuffet, which has gotten Wynut, but since I've decided not to count babies, this means Wobbuffet has been denied any kind of upgrade. However, that's fine. Wobbuffet is, like Ditto and Unknown, a gimmick Pokemon. It learns no direct attacks, meaning its only way to get a KO is Counter, Mirror Coat, or Destiny Bond. Giving it an alternate form wouldn't change how it works in an interesting way, and giving it an evolution would mean making just a higher base stat total Wobbuffet with no changes to moveset. Just like how Wynot is just a lower base stat total one with no changes to moveset, and that just isn't necessary. Leave Wobbuffet as the Team Rocket comic relief Pokemon and move on. Next is Girafarig, which recently got Farigiraf, an evolution it sorely needed, so that brings us to Forretress. I've always had a fondness for Forretress. Its design is unique, and I like the attack style of its spin slamming into opponents with its shell closed. Plus, it's got basically the best secondary typing a bug type can have with Steel. However, Forretress has been overlooked generation after generation while new bug steel types have been added. Unfortunately for Forretress, its stats have not kept up with the times, and now it's the second weakest of all the steel bugs, literally only ahead of the trash one. To me, Forretress definitely deserves an evolution. more armor, bigger cannons, ooh, maybe even legs? I don't know, I'm not picky. I just think this unique and cool and frankly forgotten Pokemon should get an upgrade. Next is another stretch of Pokemon that have gotten love. Dunsparce got Dunsparce, Gligar got Gliscor, Steelix is a new evolution and got a Mega, Granbull got the Fairy type, Quillfish got its Hisuian form and Overquill, and Scizor is a new evolution, plus got a Mega, plus got Cleavor. Giving all that stuff to Scizor, which I get, it's super cool, just like Crobat though. That brings us to Shuckle, the goofy shellworm thing with astronomical defenses and horrific everything else. I think Shuckle is amusing and cute, and the community seems to like it due to a particular word the first half of its name rhymes with. However, I think it would be difficult to give Shuckle an evolution. Its stat spread is so insane and gimmicky that I don't see how you could add points without risking actually making it broken. However, I think it's a great candidate for a regional variant. Simply change what its shell is made of and you have a fun new Shuckle that would behave differently in battle without accidentally making it unstoppable. This thing is already the Pokemon that has the highest damage output capability of anything ever, so I think we hold off on making it stronger and just make it different. Next is Heracross, which got a Mega, Sneasel, which got Weavile, its Hisuian form, and Sneasler, and Ursaring, which got Ursaluna. It's kind of funny how if I'd made this video a bit over a year ago, it would have been a lot shorter because Legends Arceus and Scarlet and Violet added a lot of stuff for Johto Pokemon. That brings us to Magcargo. I've always thought this derpy Pokemon had a really creative design, so it's a shame that it's so weak. A base stat total of 430 fits well with the Johto trend, but makes it super hard to use, especially considering its typing has 2 4x weaknesses. Magcargo should absolutely get an evolution, and I'll go even further, that evolution should be Fire Steel. That typing is way better than Fire Rock, and the only Pokemon to have it is Heatran. Make Magcargo bigger and give it a molten metal shell and I'll be happy. Yes, they already did the snail with metal shell thing with Hisuian Goodra. But Goodra ain't made of lava, so it's different. Next, Piloswine got Mamoswine, and Corsola got its Galarian form and Cursula, so that brings us to Octillery. Somehow, this strange pairing of a gunfish evolving into an octopus tank never got a 3rd stage of a helicopter whale or an aircraft carrier turtle. Although, actually, now that I make the joke, both of those sound pretty cool. Anyways, I've never loved Octillery, but I think it could get some love. I tend to prefer evolutions over regional forms since they're a more permanent upgrade, and Octillery's stats are low enough to justify one. A regional form would be cool too, though. Octopi are such interesting and intelligent creatures, and another Octillery form could explore more of their abilities than just shooting ink. We'll pass over Delibird due to Iron Bundle, and that gets us to Mantine, or Mantine. People debate it. It's either Manta and Marine or Manta and Brine. I've always called it Mantine, I'm gonna stick with that. While Mantine did get the adorable Mantike, Mantine remains fine, I guess? Rays are cool, but I've never thought Mantine was cool. I think, like with Octillery, it would be a good candidate for a regional form that explores different aspects of the animal it's based on. So Mantine is based on the large manta rays, so it could get a variant that's maybe a poison type inspired by stingrays. Next is Skarmory, and I am baffled that this thing never got an upgrade. It's a cool metal bird that, despite its oddly low 465 base stat total, has been successful in the competitive scene in generations past thanks to its excellent typing and defense. It's a really cool Pokemon, but today it's pretty outmatched thanks to power creep over the generations. You know what an easy fix for that would be? A bigger metal bird. I can't believe they haven't done this yet. Just make it bigger and meaner looking. Like, come on. Next, Houndoom got a Mega, Kingdra is a new evolution and a very strong one at that. Donphan got Great Tusk and Iron Treads. Porygon 2 is a new evolution and got Porygon Z, and Stantler got Weirdeer. That brings us to Smeargle, which hasn't gotten anything, which makes sense. It's another gimmick Pokemon, and if they gave it an evolution that could learn any move in the game without having awful stats, that's a significant risk of becoming broken. I don't play competitive already, but a competitive scene where you're constantly dealing with a strong Pokemon that could learn any move in the game, no thank you. Next, Tyrogue and Hitmontop are new members of the Hitmon line, and then Smoochum is Jinx's baby. This one's weird, since I said babies don't count, but Jinx is a Gen 1 Pokemon, not a Johto Pokemon, so it doesn't really make the list here. either way, I don't think we need to give anything else to this very weird and uncomfortable line. Elekid and Magby are baby forms for Electabuzz and Magmar, who go on to get Electivire and Magmortar. Then that brings us to Miltank. As you probably know, I hate this thing. It's gotten nothing over the years, which I'm more than content with. In fact, I'm thrilled. Keep this terrible creature with its weird bouncing sausage nipples into the crevices of obscurity. Anyways, the final stretch now. Blissey is a new evolution, then Raikou, Entei, and Suicune technically don't have anything as of recording this, but the Scarlet DLC Paradox Legendary appears to be a combination of all three, so I'm counting that. Tyranitar got both a Mega and Iron Thorns, so that brings us to the final three, Ho-Oh, Lugia, and Celebi. I should quickly address, yes, Shadow Lugia exists. However, that was a new form in the same generation, and this whole time it has to be stuff after the Pokemon's introduction generation. But even if it was a later generation thing, the form is temporary. It goes away once you purify the Lugia, and the form is not accessible anywhere but Pokemon XD, so that just doesn't fit the criteria. First, I think we don't need to talk much about Celebi, since whenever a mythical Pokemon gets a new form, it's always been in the same generation as its release. So if Celebi didn't get one back then, it's not getting one in the future, and I think that's fine for mythical Pokemon. As for Ho-Oh and Lugia, them not getting any kind of love is both crazy and understandable. First, it's crazy because of all the legendaries, excluding mythicals, in the first 3 generations, Ho-Oh and Lugia are the only ones yet to get a new form or member of their group. Even if you look at only the box art legends, you can add on Generation 4, and they're still the only ones without one. This is insane, but also understandable. The last time Ho-Oh and Lugia were the central Pokemon of a game was Heart Gold and Soul Silver, released in 2009 before giving old gen Pokemon new forms became a thing in Gen 6 with Megas. Ho-Oh and Lugia's remakes came too early. The Hoenn and Sinnoh legends got more recent remakes, while the Kanto legends got fancy new forms because they're Kanto Pokemon, and thus more iconic, more familiar, and more likely to get picked for things like this. It's why the Kanto starters have both Megas and Gigantamax forms, while Meganium and Feraligatr have nothing. In short, Ho-Oh and Lugia are long overdue for some cool new forms, but I feel confident that we will get them someday whenever we return to Johto, which I desperately hope is in another Pokemon Legends game. Please, I need my life to be in danger. So that's all the Johto Pokemon Game Freak's forgotten. Of all of them, I think Lantern, Skarmory, and Fortress are the ones I want to get an upgrade the most. Really cool Pokemon that have just been left in the dust. Thanks so much for watching, with an extra special thanks to my patrons over on Patreon who are helping support my channel independent of fluctuating YouTube ad rates. If you wanna help support me in the same way, the link is in the description below. And if you want to check out some more of my fun Pokemon content, I recommend these videos here. But that is all I have for now, so until next time, big fans, gotta catch them all.